and that would not include oil palm derivatives or byproducts. And also this amount, it will also be taken into consideration at this fund for oil palm will not kick in until until it is established. There's an escrow account that's supposed to handle it and all of that kind of. Also, because this concession is for the development of both rubber and oil palm, and so there's also a rubber development fund that is contemplated under the agreement. Again, 0.75% of gross sale of rubber products, and the agreement contemplates that you also have another management team that will administer this fund from the gross sale. Again, it's contemplated, and then you have a management team, 50% from the concessionaire, 50% again a 10-member team that has to be formed after the agreement is ratified. Then in this provision 19.10 on community interest rose directly out of the land rights law that recognizes 5% equity interest of the communities. It's also stated here. So the communities will enjoy a 5% undiluted free carry interest in the agreement. And we all know how these equity interests are treated. They are at the bottom of the pile. So you have to take out all the associated taxes and payments on loan and everything before you can have the community to share in dividend. And there are different considerations there. On some of the fiscal related issues, I will leave those to the Ministry of Finance. The debt to equity is kept at 4.44 to 1 in the agreement. And on the overall, the agro program, which I believe the minister will speak about, is very critical under this agreement, because even with the substantial reduction in the land in the holding of this new company, you want a sustainable development, especially with the communities, inclusive growth, for lack of a better term. So I think we need to put the investor feet to the fire to actually develop that agro program, because we've seen that with most of the concession years, where even though they agree to do the portion as it relates to agro program, but they don't fulfill that obligation. And what you see is then you see a lot of contestation and a lot of agitation from the communities. So I think the agro program, an additional 15,000 hectares under this agreement that's supposed to be developed, of course, with the land authority playing a very crucial part with the investor in order to get the land in Bapolu, Cape Mount, and Bombing. It's very critical for us to have a sustainable project, but also to enhance the social credentials of the investor in the project. So let me stop here. My colleagues are here. I know we'll have some direct questions later on, but let me stop here, and then maybe the Minister of Agriculture can fill in, followed by the Ministry of Finance, and if Justice have anything to add. So thank you.
Okay, before we go on to other speaker, to General Ladies Just AE, Madam, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Koudori. I'm the Deputy Minister for Economic Affairs and Ministry of Justice.
Oh, Minister of Justice.
Yeah. I'm Sana Casey Harris from the National Bureau of Concession.
Okay, Saya, could you please administer that?
Yeah, my name is Wilmot Asia from National Bureau of Concession.
Oh, so two of you. Okay, please.
Please share the feed.
Okay, so, Madam Minister,
Your witnesses are qualified, sir.
thank you, sir. Madam Minister, Madam Deputy Director General, you are welcome at this hearing. I think the letter indicated, sent to you, indicated to you the purpose of this hearing. Okay. So, thank you. Police, do we interact with the first speaker, or we listen to all of them before we engage them? Okay, so maybe before we get a financial aspect, Madam Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I beg your indulgence. I am not well, but this is important. I think we've been trying to have this meeting with this kind of participation for almost a year now, so I'm very happy that we have reached this point. Chairman Gray has outlined and touched on all of the salient points. I think I wanted to point out one thing. In the transfer between Sam Darby and Mano that was effected in 2019, the Ministry of Agriculture was not represented in that transfer, mainly because there was no minister, but also because the financing agreements call for agriculture and finance to lead these discussions. So if agriculture was not represented in the talks, finance is the one that led it. And so, yes, it's the alternate. So, whatever we say about that transfer, please let's note for the record that Ministry of Agriculture was not a part of those discussions. Therefore, we don't have briefing notes or anything, just what we have heard from our colleagues. In the new agreement, I think he has touched on many of the main points. Some things carried over without us really fleshing them out too much because they were not seen as important points. One of them, Senator Batekwa, you touched on, and that is the carbon rights, which has not been, up until the last few months, a real issue in Liberia that we have considered. We have just ceded those. Even when we were discussing this new agreement with Mano, various members of us in the Liberian government were engaging in this new world that is opening up on carbon. And so it's something that we would need to really pay attention whether we want to cede all of our rights to it when things are evolving at a very, very rapid pace, and what pertains today may not pertain next year, and posterity may judge us for that. But this being said, we had gone over the agreement before this opportunity had really come up, and so we did not flag it before it was sent to you. But it's just something that we may want to consider. We don't have the answers yet on carbon financing, and not having the answers, maybe it is not prudent to cede everything, but to have some sort of negotiation on that. The community development, the formation of the community development committee is something that at various times I have heard coming here to this committee and others, The composition that is in the financing agreement is the same composition that's in just about all of the financing agreements, concessionary financing agreements. 5 members supposed to be named by the government, but to include the community, 5 members by the investor. It is those 5 members, their inclusion, their selection, their appointment, that it's not spelled out how it's supposed to be done in the financing agreement, because that's something we as government have to decide. And it is, given the problems that we have had with communities not feeling involved or even feeling disenfranchised at times, we suggest that at least 3 of those members are selected in the most transparent way possible from the communities themselves, so that they can't say, oh, but your people you brought and you put them on the committee and we are not getting anything, we're not hearing this, that, and other. This is a suggestion. The composition is not maybe up for discussion in the financing agreement, but we as a government have to be conscious of the fact that who we put on those committees matters in the future. And I say this because from the agriculture perspective, this concession, as well as all of the other agricultural concessions and all the agricultural investments, we need them badly. Agriculture forms almost 40% of our GDP. Most of our rural livelihoods depend on agriculture. They say 80, 85%, etc., etc. We have to get it right. If we're providing jobs and livelihoods in the rural areas, we have to be able to get it right. We also have to not scare away investors with such onerous demands that they say, well, you want us to come and now replace government in this area, and we're not interested, we'll go somewhere where it's easier. And many investors have come and voted with their feet by leaving. Sam Darby is one example, and I was speaking to Chairman Gray shortly before. In many of the discussions, when the concessions come with complaints about different things, we have to see how we as a government play our role to keep the concessions, because we need them. They are not our enemies. We need them. We need the revenue. We need the development that they can bring. And so the composition of the community development, the community management team from the government side is something that we would like to pay very close attention to, and we will do it within the interministerial committee meeting, but we also want it to be done in consultation with your good selves to make sure that the rights of the community are respected and reflected in these committees. They all,
Could you please check the
there are 2 funds that are mentioned. The Oil Palm Development Fund has not yet been established, and it would follow the procedures as outlined. But in 2017 was established a Rubber Development Fund by this august body. There's an act of legislature creating it, and so it would not have the same parameters. The 0.7% that's supposed to go to a Rubber Development Fund, one has been established. We have not yet established one for the oil palm sector. And then the last point that I want to speak to is the outgrower program. In the past, we have traditionally left the development of an outgrower program to the investor. primarily because the idea of an outgrower program, the most successful outgrower program Liberia has ever had came from Firestone. Way back in the day, where they basically shepherded Liberians into the rubber sector. We didn't know anything about it. They had all the technical expertise, and how they did it, I mean, you know, posterity may judge, but that was the first one and most successful one. Since then, we've left it to the companies to decide, and you know, with varying results. None of them, I can say, are good. The companies have recently started asking, the concessions have started asking the government to develop an outgrower program that they can subscribe to. This is something that we would like to do, but it would require certain resources that we don't have yet available to us in the Ministry of Agriculture to develop the concept and the model of an outgrower program. Nevertheless, with the resources that we do have, we in the Ministry of Agriculture and in the agricultural sector will work with each of these concessions to develop an outgrower program that hopefully can be a good model to follow. Our interest is to keep the investment here, to promote Liberianization as much as possible through this outgrower program, and see it a successful investment will have a successful outgrower program. But please note that we will be doing these with restricted resources, which means that we may lean unduly on the investors to help to develop this, or other NGOs and partners in the sector. We have developed already a national oil palm strategy, which we would expect to guide our work in this regard. I think I would like to rest my I would like to, well, it's still on. I would like to rest my comments with this, and am available for questions. And please, senators, I beg you, I am actively not well.
Sorry. We understand. Sorry. Sooner or later. So, as it was suggested that we colleagues, please listen to them. I hope you are taking your notes. So after the presentations, then we can engage them. So at this time, we turn to Minister of Finance. What is or are the benefits financially? So the people of Liberia, the affected communities, the government.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here representing the Minister of Finance. Unfortunately, he is not in the country, so he can't be here. But what I've read about this program, it seems to be very viable, and I think it comes as an intervention after after Sam Davi left, so that it prevents the loss of jobs, you know, and it doesn't disrupt the economy, you know, and at least our people can keep working. MFDP supports the amendment, and we think it will be something good for the country. As an